What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Today the sun is very low, hence the shades, but we're working on the Suzuki Swift Sport, the bright yellow thing in the background, and we're upgrading the brakes with EBC Yellow Stuff pads and some Borg Beck front discs. This is a very low mileage car. It doesn't need discs and pads doing, but we're upgrading them, and we did do the rears on another channel, not on this channel, but with Silverline tools. The rear discs and pads, as you can see there, the Yellow Stuff pads just poking through, applied by EBC brakes, and the brake discs there, very new looking, as you can tell, again supplied by Borg Beck. So we've done the rears, Yellow Stuff pads. We now need to do the fronts. The original plan was to just do the front pads. Now the front pads don't look to be too bad. You can't really see them on camera, but they've still got a bit of meat left on them. We are doing the front discs and pads though, because if you can just see there in the light, the front disc does have quite a bit of a lip on it. It's not in bad condition, there's no corrosion on the back of the disc or anything like that. You know, it's nice and clean, but with that lip, you know, another set of pads down the road, it will need discs and pads, and so I thought, well, if you're throwing new pads on, might as well throw new discs on. It'll also make it look a lot nicer, and so I thought, why not do the pair? On this particular car, all you have is two 14mm bolts for the caliper itself and two 17mm bolts for the carrier. So I'm going to try and push, first of all, the piston back in the caliper, just using a prying tool. So I'll use a screwdriver just to push that piston back, push the caliper forward, push the piston back in, and I'll use the old disc to leverage from. So I've managed to push the piston back, and as you can see now, it's giving us quite a bit of room. Just so you see that on the slide there, it's giving us enough room to get the pads out over the lip of that disc. And then we can push the piston back in fully, get the new pads and the new discs on. Now, as I've been working in this area, I've noticed that there's quite a lot of liquid dripping down from the car. Now, don't be alarmed, this is a lot more liquid than what there originally was, but I've been cleaning it down with, and what I've done is I've pushed the pistons back, and what I believe the previous owner, or the garage that sold the vehicle, have done is they've topped the master cylinder reservoir up. Brake fluid itself is highly corrosive, and so I've been spraying it like crazy to make sure that it doesn't eat through the paint and make sure that it's nice and clean. I will be giving it a douse with a hose pipe after I finish the discs and pads. But what I think's happened is, as the rear pads have wore down, the front discs and pads have wore down, this has gone just below the maximum marker, and the dealership have topped up the brake fluid, and in doing so, messed the level up, if you like, because this, at the maximum mark, would be correct if the rear discs and pads were new and the front discs and pads were new. This level should be at the maximum mark. As you can see, it's well over. With worn discs and pads, it should sit just below, or just on, sorry, the minimum marker, or just above the minimum marker, and therefore when you renew the discs and pads front and rear, you shouldn't really have to touch this or siphon any fluid out, because as you push all four pistons back, that should go back up to the maximum mark, and that's how the reservoir on the brake master cylinder is designed. But as these have been worn down, the garage just thought, oh, we'll top that up, and now I'm pushing the pistons back in at the front after doing the rears, and it's just made it overflow. So not good, but I know what it is. I've not nipped what I thought at first. I've not nipped the brake line, which I was like, ah, what's going on? So yeah, good, slightly bad, clean it all down when I'm done. I've just pulled the pads out, and a good habit to have is to check that the brake pads are the same. Backing plate is the same shape on the pads that you've removed in comparison to the ones that you're putting on. This one does have an anti-rattle shim. I'll be putting the EBC anti-rattle shims on these ones as well. Come in a little packet somewhere. There they are. So yeah, I'll be bobbing those on in a moment. This pad from the manufacturer does have a wear indicator, so when you hear a car go past squeaking like crazy, it's because that wear indicator is making contact with the disc. Now on the EBC ones, it doesn't have a wear indicator on this side, but it does on the opposite side of the car. So it's not got one on this one. I presume the OEM ones will have one on both sides of the car. But yeah, they look fine. And I'm going to clean up these shims, anti-rattle shims in the carrier and throw the pads in, get the carrier off, throw the disc on, etc, etc. I've just moved the caliper out of the way to make sure that we're not hanging the caliper on the brake line. You don't want the brake line under tension. So the old disc that you can see there was just absolutely seized onto this. I was whacking it with the hammer for a good while. As you can see, there's quite a lot of corrosion on the surface of this hub here. So I've given it a quick brush with a wire brush. I'm now going to give it a quick smearing with some ceramic grease just to try and prevent that from happening again. I think somebody's been in this area before because there is copper slip and stuff like that in this area. Doubt that's from factory. It might be from factory. I mean, the marking's still there for the drive shaft. I don't know, I'm unsure. It's normally a bit of a telltale sign that somebody other than the manufacturer's been in this area, copper slip, but anyway, it's all cleaned up. We're going to throw the new disc on. So just before I get on with fitting the new stuff then, why are we fitting EBC Yellow Stuff pads instead of the normal OEM pads? Well, I'll tell you why. The EBC Yellow Stuff pads have a broader temperature range that the pads will operate within, which means they'll be ideal for spirited driving, and they've got a higher coefficient of friction as well in general than OEM pads. So what you have is you have a more consistent feeling brake pad across a broader temperature range, which is ideal for when you're doing track days in your particular car, doing spirited driving on a country road, and you will get a nice consistent brake feel regardless of what the temperature of the brakes are. So that's why we're fitting EBC Yellow Stuff pads. So that's it, the brakes are all fitted up. We've got ceramic and grease on there to stop the disc from seizing onto the hub, fingers crossed. The EBC Yellow Stuff pads are in, everything's torqued up, and it will look much nicer, and I think you'll just be able to see a little bit of the brake pad poking through, which obviously will complement the car quite nicely. Even between the spokes I think we'll be able to get that because it's such a bright yellow. But yeah, it's definitely looking a hell of a lot better. And so I'm going to crack on with the other side, get that all done and dusted, and then that will be that. So that's it for this particular video. If you found this useful, helpful, if you wondered why you should fit performance brake pads onto your particular car, hopefully this video answered that question, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.